The first cluster, Building a Math Community Through Real Data, focuses on data, standard NC 4MD4. Read Cluster 1, Building a Math Community Through Real Data in the Instructional Framework. Look at pages 3 and 4. Read about MD4 in the Unpacking document. Take a look at page 25. Let's take a look at students' previous work with data. The K-3 data standards changed very little with the revisions to the standard course of study. Therefore, your students will come to 4th grade with quite a bit of prior knowledge about collecting and representing data. In kindergarten, students sorted objects such as buttons, candy, stuffed animals, toys, into groups based on attributes such as size, color, or type of animal. They counted the number of objects in each group and then sorted the categories by count, noticing which groups had more, which groups had less, and even which groups had the same amounts. In 1st grade, students learned to organize and represent the objects they sorted or the data they collected. Notice that no specific graph is mentioned in the standard. Students can decide how to organize and represent the data. Take a look at the student work that's pictured. Students organized these prizes, they included pencils, tattoos, lollipops, rings, into groups and even labeled the count of the group. This is very similar to what students will do in 2nd and 3rd grade when they create picture graphs. Additionally, 1st graders interpret the data they collect and represent it by answering questions about the amount in each category, the total amount, and even comparisons between the groups. These early understandings in kindergarten and 1st grade about classification and representation of data are essential building blocks to what students will learn in the upper grades. In both 2nd and 3rd grades, the standards specify that students represent data using picture graphs and bar graphs. But notice the difference between the 2 grade levels. In 2nd grade, students use a single unit scale, whereas 3rd graders must represent and interpret scaled graphs. Notice the picture graph includes a scale of 10, and the bar graph includes a scale of 2. This would be appropriate for 3rd grade. Additionally, in both grade levels, students solve problems about the graphs they create. Let's move to 4th grade. 4th grade representations include frequency tables, scaled bar graphs, and line plots. Notice that the standard specifies using whole numbers, fractional values on a line plot that has been removed from the standard. No longer will 4th graders be responsible for creating and interpreting line plots with fractional amounts. In the revised standard course of study, line plots have been removed from the 2nd and 3rd grade standards. Your 4th graders will have had line plots in 2nd and 3rd grades this year, from 2nd and 3rd grade. That will change as the years progress. Think about how will this impact your instruction this year? And then, how will this impact your instruction in later years? In 3rd grade, students focus on categorical data. In 4th grade, the focus shifts to numerical data. The 3rd bullet of MD4 calls for students to determine whether a survey question will yield categorical or numerical data. Categorical data represents individuals or objects by one or more characteristics or traits that they share. Survey questions that yield categorical data describe characteristics that can be placed into groups or categories. Some examples include the months in which people have birthdays, favorite colored t-shirts, favorite fruits, kind of pets, flavors of ice cream, types of music. Bar graphs, picture graphs, and frequency tables can be used to represent categorical data. Numerical data represents objects or individuals by numbers assigned to certain measurable properties. Questions yield responses that are values, numbers such as counts or measurements. Some examples include: how many children are in your family? How many pets do you have? Notice that both of these questions generate numerical data because the responses are numbers that are considered counts. You count the number of children in your family or the number of pets you have. Another example: how much time do you spend watching TV this week? Or, what is the height of a fourth grader? Both of these questions are also numerical because the responses are measurements. How much time do you spend watching TV would be answered with a number of minutes. What is the height of a fourth grader would be answered with measurements, measured by inches. Bar graphs, frequency tables, and line plots can all be used to represent numerical data. A caution: be careful of saying to students that survey questions that yield categorical data will give you words, and survey questions that yield numerical data, numbers. For example, things like jersey numbers, grade levels, or even house numbers are considered categorical data. Yes, the responses are numbers, but they represent categories or groups rather than measurements or counts. As a part of the Tools for Teachers grant, teams of teachers from across the state have spent the past year developing resources to correlate with the new standards. You can find these resources on the Tools for NC Teachers website. Notice the link, Tools for NC Teachers. Open up this website and go to the fourth grade page. Click on Cluster 1. Under the Additional Resources for Cluster 1, you will find 2 resources that will help you better understand the data standard in Cluster 1. Take a look at the Data Background Teacher Information and the Data Presentation with Notes for Teacher Background. Both the Data Background Teacher Information handout and the Data Presentation with Notes for Teacher Background Information PowerPoint presentation offers additional information about the 4th grade standard MD4. These resources include the specific representations 4th graders are responsible for creating, as well as the difference between categorical and numerical data. Cluster 1 also includes one supporting standard, NBT4, which focuses on addition and subtraction.